John McDonnell is just one of the MPs due to speak to a rally of unions, campaigners and activists marking the anniversary today. And Sky's politics and people correspondent Nick Martin is at the 10 Years On rally at the Royal Exchange in the City of London and joins us now. And Nick, there are real concerns that we could be sleepwalking into another crisis.
That's right. We've heard some dire messages over the last few days about whether, as a country or even as the world, we learned our lessons from that global financial crisis. And Adam Parsons, in that report there, clearly set that out. And this rally today will look back on the last 10 years and crucially ask the question, what have we learned, if anything? And it hasn't truly started yet, which is why it looks a bit quiet, but people will begin to turn up. Let's just have a chat with David Hillman, who's from the Robin Hood tax campaign, one of the organisers of this 10 Years On event. I mean, what's the purpose of today?
Well, we're a number of groups, Positive Money, Unite the Union, and we've come together because we are marking 10 years on from the crash of Lehman's, and it's a wake-up call. You know, the banks got bailed out and we got sold out, and that's why we've come here today to say enough is enough with that.
What did we learn, if anything, from what happened 10 years ago?
I think what shockingly we've seen is that the bankers have bounced back. They have made 50 billion in bonuses. That's the four big banks in the UK, 50 billion in bonuses, whilst at the same time we've seen 50 billion slashed from our schools and our hospitals, which is quite a shocking state of affairs.
So whilst the financiers and that big global machine kind of picked itself up, Lehman's excluded, and carried on as normal, all those austerity cuts that we saw in the UK, you say are starting to manifest itself in poorly funded schools, NHS waiting lists.
Wrong. You know, enough is enough.
It was always said back then that it was almost impossible, wasn't it, we were told, to hold individual bankers to account for the decisions and the risks that they took in meddling in the global economy. That was true though, wasn't it? I mean, you talk about financiers still being held to account today, but it was nigh on impossible to do that, wasn't it?
I think rather than concentrating on the individual bankers, it's much more important to look at the whole system. And what we need to look at is, in 2008, have we changed enough since 2008 to stop us sleepwalking into the next crisis? And we haven't. And that's why we're having a rally today. That's why we need to get so many people behind changing finance, because we cannot afford to go into another crisis. And ordinary people are not going to pay for it again.
This is it, isn't it? These warnings about that the crisis has already begun. We've heard on our programme this morning that the next financial crisis has already begun. But the world is a different place today than it was 2008. Who's going to deal with the crisis when it happens? I mean, I don't know. You don't know. Who knows?
Well, as I say, we're sleepwalking into another crisis. There have been a few changes, but not enough changes. We don't know where the next crisis is going to come from, whether it's going to come from the Asian markets. All we do know is if you don't make changes such as, I mean, there's a change you can do. You can change stamp duty on shares right now. You could bring in a lot of money, something like £5 billion a year that would, for instance, pay 1.6 billion to the NHS, plug the social care hole, pay for 20,000 new teachers, with money left over for 50,000 affordable homes. Those are the kind of changes that you could make.
David Hillman, thank you so much for your time on Sky today. Yes, remembering that big financial crash of 10 years ago, the collapse of Lehman's, and of course the ramifications for the next decade.
Nick, thank you. Stay with us on Sky News. Still to come, why an instant